Yeah, g'day. Alright, with the player prices being fully revealed with the launch of the game, with their fancy new stylings, by the way, I quite like the light look. The kind of aquarish overlays and stuff is quite nice. I have noticed a couple of things though. When I click on these drop downs, you can only see these drop downs when I show the full screen from Streamlabs. So if I actually only limit it to the Chrome window, those things weren't popping up in the last video. I only noticed it on the second watchback. So we'll try and go full screen for now and see how we go. I've been tinkering around with a little website of my own to use throughout the season to show player prices and important details that you don't easily get at the glance on the FPL Live Fantasy site. And so what I've done is I've wired up this this screen, which is still in development, as I've only spent, I don't know, a couple of days over the weekend playing around with it, and the game's just launched and I've had to rewire it up for the new content that I've got out there. That, as you can see on screen, they don't have pictures yet for the likes of Haaland, so if you go and chuck him in your team and click on the little info icon, I can actually show you. So if I go down here and go, I'll just sort by team selected by. We go into someone like Haaland, he's just showing up as a shirt icon at the moment, as opposed to Gabriel Jesus, who already put it in an Arsenal top. So some of the images are not quite up to date based on, I guess, exactly how quick, how recent the transfer deals have been. So what I've done is accidentally started with the second draft first. This is typical with the demo and live demo. So with the prices being revealed, I chucked in pretty much 4 players based on the prices that got revealed before the game was launched. I already knew they were basically locks in my team. And that's Alexander-Arnold at 7.5 million, Cancelo at 7 million, which is crazy cheap. Like, these are both these players I had predicted at 8.5 and 8 million respectively. So they've both come in about $1 million cheaper each, which is a 2 million discount overall saving when you put the pair of them in. It's quite crazy. Salah is automatically in the team as well. They play Fulham first up. He's going to be my captain game week 1, so he's obviously in my team and he's going nowhere. And Haaland at 11.5 will be there probably, unless pre-season games for Man City tell us otherwise for some reason. But he's most likely going to be there in game week 1. I've wired this also up to the live percentage things like other sites have got around the place, so you can actually see at the moment Haaland's already selected by 64.4% of the players that have actually logged into the game. 64.4%, you see. So there's, how many players are they up to now? I like it's 568,668. I wonder if it changes while we're live. Oh, no, not quite yet. So as people are signing up, these figures are going up, and obviously all these figures are changing. But Salah's at 60% already, Alexander-Arnold at close to 60%, Haaland just over 60% owned, Cancelo just below 50%, which is weird. I would have expected him to be definitely 50% or above, closer to 60% at that price. Anyway, so I've built 2 drafts, one in a 4-4-2 formation. And then another one with only 1 up front, and I've actually chucked 5 players in defense. So for the mainstays, Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo, like, I don't really have to go through this right now because they will be in by game week 1. You'll find every content creator everywhere will have those 2 players in their starting lineup unless one of them's injured. So They're great players, way too cheap, so just put them in your teams if you're watching this. Don't worry about it. Salah as well, for that reason of Fulham, and Haaland, because if he goes crazy against... first up, they got West Ham away. As you can see on here, I've got their schedule linked in as well for the next 5 games. I haven't put in the colouring yet to give an indication of how difficult these fixtures are, but they play West Ham away, then Bournemouth at home, so promoted Bournemouth, Newcastle away, which should be an okay game depending on how Newcastle buy. Then they play Crystal Palace at home, and then Nottingham Forest at home, which is another promoted team. So he's very likely to be in game week 1. So then in a 4-4-2 formation, pretty much find a nice Matty Cash, alright? He's coming at 5 million, which is dirt cheap for him last year. I should probably explain the colours. So I've wired up the colours to show based on the total number of points that the player got last season. So anyone who got above 200 points, I've put down as a legend, and coloured them in gold as they should be. Casello just sneaks in there with 201 points. Kane came in just under 200 points, and there is a different colour for him. In fact, I could probably just show you that now. I want to redraft one. So if I change this to Kane, hopefully on the fly. Just go find him. Yep. So he came very close. So if the player scored between 180 to 200 points, he got the gold trimming, but like a green mainstay colour as indicating he actually scored pretty well last season. Then you've got your green trio in the middle, and that's between 140 points, I think, to 180. So it was like, yeah, somewhere in there. I have to get the colours right, but just to give you an indication of how these players did last year. And Matty Cash at 100, he was one of my heroes last season. I can't remember what game week it was, but he scored like 29 points in double game week, which I hold all of his points for because his EO was like 8% owned or something. I was expecting him to come in at least 5.5 million, but he's come in 5, so even cheaper. And then Tomiyasu, which is the most attacking Arsenal player at 4.5, who's likely to start. Now they might buy more players as the transfer window goes on, but at the moment he's most likely going to be the 4.5 option that's in the team. And for the sake of the first couple of drafts, I've just dead-ended the bench. So in my team I'll always go with a starting 4.5 and a dead keeper anyway. Typically the backup keeper to a starting 4.5 keeper in case one of them gets injured, so I don't have to burn a transfer. So in this case I've gone Brighton. Brighton's pairing of Sanchez and Steele of totaling 8.5 million. So if Sanchez gets injured, Steele comes on off my bench and I don't have to make a trade. Don't know how good of a keeper he is, but you know, hopefully, you know, it's just one of those, or maybe gets banned or something. Anyway, they've got a pretty good start to the season. They're away to Man United first, but Man United had a horrific season last season. New manager, new players coming in. They could be all over the place, so it could be a very interesting game for Brighton. But then they play Newcastle at home, West Ham away, Leeds at home, and Fulham away, which is a pretty decent run. And for an extended schedule out to, I think, about game week 8 or 9, it's actually pretty decent. And that's where most people wildcarded last year. There is a World Cup to take into account this year, and so we'll figure out the dates and when the game weeks fall in for how long you might want to be planning, and whether or not you should be using a wildcard just before a World Cup, because I actually haven't checked in on the rules yet, and if they're offering a wild card for after the World Cup or what's going on, because, you know, World Cup in the middle of the season is going to wreck a whole bunch of teams. But so Tomiyasu's in there. Then in the midfield we've got Raphina coming at 7 million, still at Leeds at the moment, but looking to move. Most likely contender is Arsenal at the moment, so if he comes in at Arsenal at 7 million, Oh, attacking Arsenal side could be interesting, but that could put cat amongst the pigeons for who's actually starting over there, because you've got Smith Rowe, Odegaard, Saka, and Jesus, who's just moved in. So how they'll be lining up over at Arsenal if they buy Raphina as well, who knows? But 7 mil is a very tasty price, even if he is at Leeds. Leeds run's not too bad at the start of the season. It's a bit higgledy-piggledy. I mean, Wolves is not a great game, but at least it's at home. Then they're away to Southampton. Then they play Chelsea at home. It's a terrible game. Then they're away to Brighton, and then Everton at home. And Everton was struggling at the end of last season, so pretty decent start. And then you've got Mason Mount coming in at 8 million. So I think that's kind of pretty cheap as well, really. I would have expected him up at about 8.5, maybe even 9 million, given he got 169 points, and he didn't play a whole bunch of minutes, I don't think. Like, I think he got rotated quite a bit, didn't he? Just go into midfielders. Is he even near the top? 100. Oh, I'm ordered by total points. Mason Mount. 106. So yeah, he played 2,300 minutes, so not even a three. I think it's 3,000 for a full season, right? Sanchez would have done a full season. Yeah, 3,000 minutes, 3,300 is pretty much a full season. So he didn't play a full season. So if he gets a lot more game time, he could be super tasty for 8 million. And then Pulisic is coming at 6 million, which I guess is fair considering he got 77 points for the whole of last year. I think he had a pretty bad injury for most of it. But if he's well rested and come back strong, that's a very, very tidy price for him. And then we've put Darwin Nunez up front at 9 million if you were going to go with 2 up front. That shouldn't be Kane, that should be Haaland. Just change that. Yeah, so Darwin Nunez, who could potentially take penalties off Salah. Salah's not a great penalty taker. Like, his record's pretty terrible, and Darwin's record is better, and I think he wants those penalties. So it'll be very interesting to see who ends up with penalties at Liverpool, but yeah, very, very interesting to see where that one goes. The second draft that I lined up with was without a second playing striker. So we've just dropped Nunez and put the money into Plange up front, who's an ex-Arsenal player, I think, because he's actually got the Crystal Palace badge and listed under Crystal Palace, but he's sitting there with an Arsenal top on if you actually go and have a look into him. But basically it's another dead player who probably won't be playing for Crystal Palace. I don't know much about that player, but anyway, it's more about to show what you can do with that extra 4.5 million saving on dropping Darwin Nunez all the way down to 4.5 non-playing, a second non-playing striker. I mean, Greenwood might be getting minutes at 4.5 million, which is crazy on the bench. Like, he could start, depending on what happens with... It's another very cheap price. I thought he'd get a bump to like 5 million. Anyway, so if we spread that 4.5 million around, you can get rid of Cash and Tomiyasu and upgrade to the likes of Reece James and Ben Chilwell, who both came in at 6 million. As well as, you could also still have Cash, but I've chucked Kieran Trippier in here as well, because before his injury, he was doing phenomenal for the few game weeks that he played. He was on set pieces, he was scoring from set pieces, he was getting assists, they were banking in clean sheets as well. He was actually doing really well. So for 5 million, he could be an absolute steal if he can stay fit. Luis Diaz also comes in at 8 million in Liverpool's midfield. So if you drop out Darwin Nunez up front, if he doesn't have penalties, for $1 million cheaper, you can slot Luis Diaz into midfield, who will get, you know, the extra point for the goals. Saka comes in at 8 million, who is likely nailed no matter who they buy, or who they're lined up to buy, by the looks of things. And Martinelli is coming at 6 million as well. Now, I think Emile Smith-Rowe and Odegaard was in and around the same price. Actually, what were they? Oops, let's Aston Villa. Oh, Odegaard came in more expensive. Really? Interesting. Smith-Rowe, though, was starting coming off the bench, scoring points week after week last year. So, I mean, if he can continue to do that, fine. But you want players in your team that are actually going to start. Who knows? Maybe he gets a start this year because he's proven well in pre-season. But the pricing seems to be extremely cheap on the front, on the initial thoughts on day one of the game being launched. I mean, Chilwell, James, with a backline of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, James, Chilwell and Trippier, who are all fit, all going to start the season in their respective squads if they are fit. By the start of the season, don't get any preseason injuries. You put Salah and Haaland in with, you know, a floating midfield of, you know, the likes of Luis Diaz, Saka, Martinelli, Mason Mount, Pulisic. The United lads came in quite cheap as well. I think Rashford was 6.5 or something crazy. I mean, you can own a lot of players, so they've kind of done the reverse of what I thought they should do, which is make players more expensive to make it more difficult. They've gone the other way and made everyone a lot cheaper so that you can have heaps of players, I guess, which makes it more fun for most players, for sure, because you can own a lot more of, you know, your favourite players across multiple teams, especially star players and players that pop up often, but it's going to make for some very high scores. I should quickly check where's the rules? Okay, I'll do it later. I'll check what the chips, if they still have all the chips, because one of the things that I was hoping that they'd do, oh, here they go, rules, chips. Oh, they kept it all the same. So the bench boost and triple captainships can each be used once a season and are played when saving your team on the My Team page. So the wild card can be used twice a season. First wild card will be available until Sunday the 13th of November at 2:30 my time, New Zealand time. Well, maybe my time. This looks hard-coded. I don't know if this is dynamic. It'll be a game week halfway through the season. It's around Christmas time, I think. But November's around Christmas time. Was it Sunday 13th? Wasn't it normally around Christmas time? Maybe they brought that up because of the World Cup. So they may have switched around the deadlines a little bit. Yeah, I have to look into that. And I wonder if they actually mention... Is there like a fact? Can't sign in, initial squad, managing team, fence name, chips. Yeah, so the chips don't look like they've changed on initial cast through. Or the wild card. Yeah, bonus points might have changed, so that's something that I'd have to sit down with a pen and paper and figure out what the hell changed in there, if anything. Hopefully they've done like a summary of exactly what's changed somewhere. That would be helpful, but we'll have a look later. Anyway, doesn't look like we've got any new chips, so seems like they've just tried to solve. It's not really going to solve anything for brand new players, because brand new players, although they are going to love the selection that they have available, unless they're actually out there on Twitter communities watching YouTube content like this, I don't believe they're going to understand that they should be using their chips in game week 1. You know, they should have probably put a bit of a limiter in there and had first half season, second half season chips to help new players, but oh well. Anyway, that's the first 2 drafts that I managed to knock together. Expect the content on screen to change. Obviously, things will flow throughout the season as game week points come through. And these are just really rough colorings of what I managed to knock together in a weekend worth of coding. So, if you have any comments about thoughts on the players and whether or not you think I'm actually wrong with some of these prices, like Trippier and Cash being, I think, 0.5 million too cheap each, based on potentially what they're going to score if they remain fit. I mean, yeah, man, I can't get over some of these prices. I just keep going on about it. I guess that's the whole thing about an initial reaction, right? When you flow through and you're like, look at the teams you can build. Granted, this is with a dead bench. I mean, the goalkeeper is going to be who I'm going to start with in a goalkeeper. Murphy's, I think, the highest percent owned, 4.5 playing player. I'd have to have a look into all. That's when we start getting into the nitty gritty of who's the best 4.5 playing fifth bench member option if you have selected to go with 4 playing players in the midfield. So once you've actually settled on a formation, this gets a little bit later into strategy, but this is an initial reaction thing, so that's why I just dead-ended the bench, so you could kind of see if you were inclined to just, you know, go hell for leather and just kill your bench, what you could get away with, and you can build a pretty decent team. So yeah, smiles around from me. I'm happy the game's here. I'm still getting over the shock of the prices, clearly, and I'm a little bit flustered as I've just re-whacked together all of the code to show this stuff on screen, so that I could get a little bit of feedback from the community if you think it's, well, got potential, hopefully. There's lots of changes coming, and maybe I'll be able to release it later. That is the plan. I will be releasing some software content if any of you in the community are at all interested. This is also why I'm building this site, so I can actually get a handle on, you know, having some actual live dynamic content that's working to talk about on another stream on YouTube. So that's why I'm using it here. It's kind of a 2 birds 1 stone kind of thing, but also I quite like the fact that it pulls up the images and stuff on screen, so you can see the player names and live data as it's changing. So as I make new videos throughout the week, which is the plan, these figures should change as, you know, players sign up and start selecting their teams and start playing around with all the different drafts that they can make, which is tinker time. It's gonna be great. So thanks for sticking around and listening to the first of hopefully a long series of content. Yeah, please like and subscribe, and I will catch you around sometime soon. Cheers.